principal with Bernstein Private Wealth Management and president of your board of trustees of this library. And it is my honor to welcome you to Westport. Thank you. It is my honor to welcome you to the Westport Library for the annual Book for the Evening event. Tonight, we honor Alan Alda. And it need not be said, but Alan is a supernova who has earned the affection and admiration of people around the globe. Who doesn't have their favorite Alan Alda moment? But before we get started with our tribute to him, I want to thank the people who made this evening possible. An evening such as this is the work of many hands. The library is fortunate to have extremely talented volunteers who spend hours making sure that each book for the evening is a professional endeavor that highlights the accomplishments and achievements of our honorees. We want to express our heartfelt appreciation to Wendy Brown and Candy Savin, who are chairs of this event. We would also like to acknowledge and give our heartfelt gratitude to the Booked for the Evening Committee. Martha Austin, Stacy Bass, Deanne Feldman, Julia Genzer, Lori Gertz, Lucy Johnson, Melissa Kane, Maggie Mudd, Tracy Narang, Laura Curley Pendergast, Nina Sankovic, Tricia Schwartz, and Diane Simbrock. We here at the library know that it takes hours and hours of research, writing, editing, production, and committee meetings to pull an event of this stature together for our Westport community. These volunteers are all amazing, and we thank you so much. Our appreciation also goes out to Bill Harmer and the entire Westport Library staff for all of their support and efforts. But most importantly, this evening would not be possible without all of you, our audience and our patrons. Tonight, we have a record number of people attending, so thank you for that. Since this is the library's principal annual fundraiser, I especially want to thank the many generous sponsors who contributed to this event. We could not maintain the standard of excellence we are known for without the private and corporate donations we receive from all of you in the community. Each sponsor is recognized in the program as well as on the placards in the Great Hall. A special thanks to our diamond sponsors, Jocelyn and Walter Barandiran, Paula and Tom McInerney, our sapphire sponsors, Thomson Reuters, and our ruby sponsor, the Wind Guadarrama family. Thank you all so very, very much. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our Executive Director, Bill Harmer. This is Bill's second book for the evening, and it's exciting for all of us how Bill and his staff have so warmly stepped up to the plate on behalf of this event. And now, Bill, if you come up and say a few words.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 19th annual Book for the Evening. I want to start by underscoring our appreciation to everyone Joe acknowledged in his opening comments. You know who you are, our board know who you are, our staff and community know who you are, and we thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. This event would not be possible without your hard work and dedication. Thank you. Tonight is my second book for the evening, and I can't begin to tell you how much I've been looking forward to this year's event. As you can see, I am not messing around this year. I even went out and rented this jazzy tuxedo. But that's not the only change. As many of you may have noticed, tonight we have configured our space a little differently to give you a glimpse of the future. You'll be seeing a lot of physical changes like this one, because after 10 years of planning, we will be breaking ground on August 1st on our very exciting transformation of the Westport Library. Without increasing the footprint, the redesigned space will be much more flexible and responsive to the current and future needs of our community. This greatly anticipated renovation will take about 20 months, but I'm here to assure you that the library will remain open for business. And when the work is completed on this project, we are certain that you will be delighted by the new inviting entrances and the alluring social spaces and quiet areas. You will also be able to enjoy spectacular views overlooking the Jessup Green and the Saugatuck River. We'll have an expanded number of meeting rooms, a much bigger cafe, newly designated areas to pursue specialized interests, and an innovative makerspace for the creative minds in Westport to take advantage of for years to come. And all of this is evidence that we are truly continuing to lead the way as an innovative 21st century library. All of this is being made possible by the amazing fundraising efforts that have already taken place. With $15.5 million already committed to this project, we need to work together to reach our goal of raising $4 million more. And in a few weeks, we'll be launching our community campaign to raise those additional dollars. I must say that people in Westport have been incredibly generous. Many of the donors, investors, and stakeholders who have brought us this far are here with us tonight. And we thank you for that, but we still need your help to raise some additional funds to meet our final goal. If you'd like to learn more about our exciting and imaginative designs that will make our library relevant for years to come, come say hello to me after the event. I'd be happy to answer any questions or furnish you with any details. And if you haven't already contributed to this effort, I encourage you to give it serious consideration. We need you, and Westport needs you to maintain the Westport Library as a municipal jewel serving residents of all ages. Now, what do you say we get on with the show? First, if you would, please silence your electronic devices if you haven't done so already. And please take note of the exits. There are 3 of them. Where you entered here tonight at the Levitt side parking lot, there's one behind the bar area, and then there's a 3rd exit behind me to my left. I have one program note to mention to you. Due to a family emergency, Joanne Gleason is disappointed, but she will not be able to join us this evening. However, we are very fortunate to have Cynthia Gibb, another very talented artist in our community who is kind enough to serve as our MC this evening. So take it away.
written about Alan Alda, the TV star and the film star, the motion picture director, writer, humanitarian, champion of minority causes.
I mean, Alan Alda is an American treasure. He could write, he could direct, he could act, he could produce.
And I don't want to kid you into thinking I've got this all worked out and I know how to do it. I'm still working on it myself.
He made his Broadway debut in 1959, his film debut 4 years later.
Well, we realize that it's also human to be the world's foremost authority on everything from forward at the roast beef at lunch to the nervous system of the newt. War isn't hell. War is war and hell is hell. And of the two, war is a lot worse. You have to call an ambulance. Listen to me, damn it, I'm a doctor.
Of history. How can I remember a William Blake poem I memorized over 30 years ago and not remember that I saw a woman with a sprained ankle this afternoon?
Secretary of State is not something you throw at the other party to show how bipartisan you are. The job is way more important than that.
Scalpel.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just a TV guy. I wanted to be a writer from the time I was 8 years old. And I wanted to be an actor from the time I was 9. Well, I'd like to thank my mother, my father, my wife. I love my children. God bless America. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Cynthia Gibb, and it is my distinct pleasure to be here tonight with all of you and to introduce Mr. Alan Alda. Mr. Alda is a man very, very deserving of our praise. I got your back. This man acts, he sings, he apparently dances, he writes, he directs. He's an activist, a humanist, and a humorist. For the past 75 years, he has been exercising his many talents and winning accolades, awards, and applause for just about everything he does. He was born Alfonso Joseph Uso in the Bronx, in New York, in 1936. But the world knows him as Alan Alda.
I'm most at home on stage. I was carried on stage for the first time when I was 6 months old. My father was a burlesque, and he and my mother traveled from town to town with a company of comics, straight men, chorus girls, strippers, and talking women. The chorus girls always brought me to the dressing room. I was like a pet. When they had to change costumes, they would say, "Okay, Alan, turn your back now." All of this was far more interesting for a 3-year-old boy than you could possibly imagine.
Alan's first love, more than the dancers, or the costumes, or the silk clothes, waited for him in a place far from the stage.
A little space, not much bigger than a closet off the living room. This is where my father went to write. I went in one day and saw a sheet of paper and a typewriter. And the sight of his typewritten words on the onion skin paper touched and ignited me. I was 8 years old, and for the first time I realized that writing was something you could just sit down and do. From then on, I knew I wanted to be a writer.
At the age of 9, his father brought Alan on stage with him to perform the Abbott and Costello routine, Who's on First, at the Hollywood Canteen.
My father said his first line, I said mine, and there was a laugh. A couple lines later, there was an even bigger laugh. The spotlight began to fill more. I could make them laugh, and if I wanted, I could stop their laughter and make them listen.
As a young actor trying to make it in New York, Alan went on auditions, certain he would find the perfect role, or it would find him.
You ever have a job before you were acting? Did you have jobs?
Many.
Day jobs? What
Yeah, I
jobs?
was a doorman and a cab driver.
You were a cab driver?
Yeah, for about 3 months until I got scared.
Really? Did you ever drive anyone in your cab that you later saw in life anyway?
Yes, Jane Fonda, and then I made a movie with her 15 years later.
Jane Fonda,
Yeah.
baby, you're okay.
Yeah, and when I made the movie, she tipped me.
To be young, out of work, and an actor is to say yes to everything. Can you ride a horse? Well, certainly. Can you play the trumpet? Oh, yes. How tall are you? Well, how tall do you need? Like, you take any acting job you can get, not just to be able to live, but to learn how to act.
Acting jobs did come through for Alan. He appeared on Broadway in The Owl and the Pussycat and The Apple Tree, and on television in the Phil Silvers Show, The Doctors and the Nurses. His first film role was in Gone Are the Days, and the other film roles followed, including portraying George Plimpton in Paper Lion. Alan and his wife Arlene had 3 daughters, and the family settled down in Leonia, New Jersey. And then Alan read a script for a certain television pilot.
You know, this thing could run for a year or 2, I told Arlene. Well, look, you think it's not good? Well, why don't you do it? She said. Yeah, well, we could probably work something out. The night before the first rehearsal was to begin, I got on a plane for Beverly Hills where I had to decide in the next few hours if I would do a television series about a bunch of doctors and nurses in Korea.
MASH was a phenomenon. 11 seasons, 256 episodes, and more than 100 Emmy nominations. And at its core was Alan Alda. The character of Hawkeye Pierce was emblematic of the struggle between comedy and tragedy.
We get the feeling there's a war going on?
And it made Alda one of the most successful actors and writers we've ever known.
You can't ignore the collection of people that was brought together by Gene Reynolds. The writing and the acting and the directing talent was terrific. All my life I've valued plays or dramatic writing that was both funny and also so serious and recognized that we're all going to die. But the fact that we did the show that way, I think made a big difference between that show and just about any other comedy that had ever been on up until then. Whenever we referred to the war, I wanted us to let everybody know that we knew what we were talking about, that it had this horrific element to it.
And like I ended this war, I had a very clear understanding with the Pentagon. No guns. I'll carry your books, I'll carry a torch, I'll carry a tune, I'll carry on, carry over, carry forward, carry Grant, cash and carry me back to old Virginia. I'll even carry if you show me how, but I will not carry a gun. A very dry, arid, barren, desiccated, veritable dust bowl of a martini. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry I'm late, but my watch stopped. It had to. It's been running fast all week.
No, I'll tell you what I find upsetting is being in here. I want you to get me out of here. I don't care how you do it.
Hello, Snake Pit. We never close. Will gin? Sir, I have sipped, lapped, and taken gin intravenously, but I have never swilled.
The thing that was essential, that helped the audience connect to it, was that we knew we were telling the story of real people.
I better get out of here.
Colonel, before you go, we've been thinking about it. There's a little something we'd like to give you. It's not much, but it comes from the heart.
The last episode was very different for us. We didn't really understand how popular the show was. We got in cars and went to a restaurant to have dinner, and on the way to the restaurant, I said to Loretta Swift, Loretta, look at the streets. The streets are empty. There's no traffic in the road. And it was at that moment that we realized that most everybody was home watching us on television.
Alan wrote and directed numerous episodes of MASH and co-wrote its final episode, which aired on February 28, 1982. To this day, that final show remains the most watched television episode ever.
Yeah, about half the people in the country, 125 million of them were watching. WQXR, the classical music station in New York, said a record number of people were calling to ask for the name of the piece they heard on the show. I used the Mozart Clarinet Quintet because Arlene had played it the night we met.
For more than 45 years, Alan has been a beloved presence on the big screen and in our living rooms, whether playing a good doctor, a crooked politician, a pompous television producer, or a kooky professor.
I thought all I want to do in life is act in material that I respect, with other actors I respect, in front of an audience that gets it.
You want to go down in history as a war profiteer, Helen? Is that what you want? Talk to Leslie. Go ahead, I'm not moving. Come on, Elliot.
This car was taken apart piece by piece and reassembled inside this room.
This car will eventually be sold at auction with the rest of your belongings.
Only if I'm guilty, Agent, and which I'm not.
I can take the same energy that I put into my work and I can put it into our life.
The accused doesn't know any lawyers. Federal court tossed it into our lap.
Have a seat next. Look. Now let's cut the crap. You and I have had our problems in the past. I understand that. New York is not the center of the damn universe. I grant you it's an exciting, vibrant, stimulating, fabulous city, but it is not Mecca. It just smells like it.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Did you character damage? Yeah, I can take it. Oh, it's good news, sir. Immediately after the assassination attempt, we got a 15-point boost in national focus. Okay.
Choices have consequences. You think your wife felt like she had a choice in this. Maybe you two shouldn't be together.
Jesus, doesn't anybody know how to write funny anymore? I mean, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to write everything myself, write it myself, direct it myself, produce it myself? Dorothy, in the first place, I want you to know that what happened last night was the most beautiful, wonderful, crazy thing that's ever happened to me, and I'll never forget. Or you.
Doris.
Pharmaceutical executives in this country that are selling drugs, FDA-approved drugs.
On the open market.
On the over-the-counter with incredible, terrible side effects. And these people are not. Nobody can do what you do. My guys are perfect.
Dare you call me that?
Wait a minute, excuse me. Stephanie, bring down a copy of my will and an eraser, okay?
There are degrees. Whipped cream, chocolate mousse, butter. They go like that.
During the year, I turned an Oscar in January, Tony in April, an Emmy in September, and in October, the first book I'd written made the bestseller list. Now, loving your art, no matter how humble it is, can transform you. It's worth the trouble it takes. It's true that it can sometimes bring you despair, but it can also bring you ecstasy.
a doctor fighting to save a patient's life. And then in the fall of 2003, on a remote mountaintop in Chile, he found himself facing death and relying on a doctor he had just met to save his life.
Dr. Cepeda told me, the blood supply to some of your small intestine has been choked off, and I had to go in and resect the bad part and then sew the good parts back together. Oh, I said, you're going to do an anastomosis. Well, he was stunned. How do you know that? I explained, well, I did many of them on MASH.
Querido Alan, felicitaciones. Para mí es un verdadero honor poder enviar mis más sinceras felicitaciones por el reconocimiento de parte de Westport Library. Porque siempre son el conocimiento y la dimensión de nuestra vida. La vida y sus circunstancias son misterios que aparecen, guían y determinan nuestro quehacer, y jamás terminaré de agradecer el privilegio de conocerte a ti y tu faceta más personal, que es a mí y tu familia. Alan, un gran abrazo y felicitaciones por un nuevo reconocimiento en tu larga y prolífica vida.
I was so glad to have not died that day that I made it my new birthday.
Hello everyone. I'm sorry I can't be there tonight, but the wonderful people of the Westport Library have asked me if I would just talk for a minute about Alan Alda, which is pretty hilarious. I mean, how do you sum up a Superman like Alan in just 60 seconds? But I'm gonna try. First of all, he is the smartest guy I know. Well, aside from my husband, of course. But he is an encyclopedia of science. He can explain the most complicated concepts to a person who couldn't even get through Chemistry 101. I know this from personal experience. And he is hilariously funny. He is so funny that I don't even dare drink red wine around him anymore. I've ruined so many beautiful outfits with my spit takes. And he's a freedom fighter and a humanitarian. He believes so much in the power of young people, especially young women. I learned this 40 years ago when he helped me put together Free to Be You and Me. And that passion is reflected today in the lives of his beautiful and brilliant 3 daughters and those hundreds of grandchildren. And he's married to the most wonderful woman in the world. Well, aside from my husband's wife, of course. Arlene has been a bedrock of support for Alan from the very start, while simultaneously keeping together the family and blazing a shining career of her own. Somebody really had to clone that woman. And I think Alan could probably do it. And most of all, Alan is a dear and loyal and irreplaceable friend. We've been pals and soulmates for many, many revolutions around the sun. And just to keep this astronomical metaphor going, because I like to talk scientifically around Alan, he is always going to be a shining star in my galaxy, and I'm going to love him till the end of time. So congratulations, Professor Alda, on another very deserved award. And always remember, you're number 1 in my book.
Just a little, yeah. Why don't you fix that?
You campaigned for an amendment to the US Constitution that would put sexual equality equality between the sexes into the Constitution.
Yeah.
It failed.
Yes, amazingly, huh? How could you say no to that? How could you say no to that and get elected the next time?
The Boston Globe dubbed you an honorary woman for your work on behalf of women's rights, and with First Lady Betty Ford on the ERA, and it's well known.
I have always been sympathetic to the women's movement. I was sympathetic to the women's movement before there was this current wave of popularity for the movement. I always thought of myself as a feminist even as a child. I thought that it was foolish and wrong to treat women differently from men.
Why should a boy want to play with a doll? Dolls are for girls in his cousin friend.
It just seemed monumentally unfair that half the population would be automatically regarded as not equal under the law.
It's all our rights. We all suffer by having any group of us diminished or kept out of the mainstream because we all depend on one another's talent and ability.
I think it's like a disease that needs to be cured. And we could eradicate polio. I don't see why we can't eradicate misogyny.
love the work you do, if you can give full measure to the people who pay you for your work, if you try not to lie, try not to cheat, try to do good just by doing well, whatever you do, then you will have made a revolution.
It's a great pleasure to congratulate Alan Alda on winning the Westport Library Award. Yeah, Alan is a guy who just loves ideas, loves learning. You know, we first met when Alan was playing Richard Feynman, the physicist, in a play called QED. And Alan had to speak of all this physics mumbo jumbo during the performance, and he really wanted to know what the physics words meant, what the ideas meant. So he called me up. We spoke about quantum mechanics, quantum field theory, cosmology, everything, and it showed me how deeply committed he is to understanding how the world works. And I figured I'd give Alan a little treat for this evening award ceremony. Look at this little device here. It's called a rattleback. And watch what happens here. So if I spin this thing in one direction, somehow it starts to spin in the opposite direction, which is kind of amazing. Now, all of you in attendance, look over at Alan right now. And you can see that he is thinking about it. He's wondering, how does that work? How can I possibly do that? And I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm going to cogitate on this. And the rest of you, throughout the evening, look over at Alan. You'll see in the back of his mind, he's trying to figure this out, trying to work this out. So, again, Alan, I hope I have not ruined your evening as you spend all of your mental energy trying to figure this out. And congratulations again on this well-deserved award from the Westport Library.
Alan was a real-life science detective. Using language viewers could easily understand, he unlocked the mysteries buried in our country's history and within our own bodies, and revealed to us the dazzling attributes of our planet, in the ground, beneath the sea, and in the heavens.
Hi Alan, I was given 1 minute to talk about the 20 years we worked together making science shows for PBS. So instead of trying to summarize the hundreds of hours we spent with distinguished researchers from around the world, I picked a moment that beautifully sums up why working with you is such a joy. We've been driving across Kansas, with you asking every mile, are we really going all this way to film a story about dog food? Yes, we are, said I. And after discovering just how difficult it is to brush a dog's teeth, you checked out how well you've done by sniffing her breath. Here's the moment I'll always remember.
Come here. Yeah. And when you speak about this, and I know you will, be kind. Yes. I don't know what this dog's been eating, but this is definitely a dog.
His lifelong passion is actually science.
I've spent about 20 years helping scientists make their work understandable to the rest of us, clear and vivid, but accurate, not dumbed down.
My interest in science goes way back early. When I was 6, I would mix my mother's face powder with toothpaste to see if I could get it to blow up.
I began reading science kind of voraciously. I couldn't get enough of it. It just was so fascinating to me to see that people could figure things out on the basis of such a minor amount of detail. They can make accurate approximations of what nature is really like. Parts of nature that we can't see normally, can't experience otherwise. And I was just so astonished by that.
As host of PBS's Scientific American Frontiers from 1993 to 2005, Alda interviewed hundreds of researchers about new discoveries in science, technology, and medicine.
He has really made scientists feel that they can communicate with the public.
Space around it, that's good, very plump. Yeah. I'm quite impressed. Whatever you're doing in terms of keeping your brain young, you're doing a good job. It looks great.
Those talents that he's gained from acting and directing, I think, translate
into the ability to help scientists create narratives and make them much more effective communicators.
Just are brave people, you know, they get an idea and then they test it out and they're liable to be wrong. In fact, most of the time they're wrong and they have to get used to uncertainty. And that's something that we all have to get accustomed to if we're going to communicate about science.
The Alan Alda Center is really playing a critical role in helping us, scientists, to be the best proponents of our research.
It makes me very happy to think, not that somehow my name is associated with this, but that it'll actually have an effect and it'll change the way science is communicated.
Good evening. It's a thrill to be here tonight, and thank you to the Westport Library for this evening. I really like the ellipses. It gives you hope for the future, like there's more to come. I'm Sarah Chase, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Alan's new company, Alda Communication Training, or ACT. It's much better when you do it. We all know that Alan is gifted at many, many things, from writing, acting, to directing. But you may not know that he's also a great philanthropist and a great entrepreneur. What makes him especially remarkable as an entrepreneur is that he knows how to set goodness into motion. Last year, Alan founded ACT to make innovative communication methods more accessible for everyone, and at the same time, to help support the important research that's being done at the Alan Alda Center for Communicating Science at Stony Brook University. ACT's philanthropic mission is to assist with further funding the research in STEM and medical communication that's being developed by the Alda Center. Our support of the Alda Center is based on the Paul Newman Foundation model, where our profits go to charity. ACT is a for-profit company, but at the end of the year, the profits are returned to the Alda Center so that they can continue to conduct meaningful, often life-saving work in the science of communication itself. So for example, when you talk about doctor-patient communication, caregiver empathy, how governments communicate policy, or even crisis communication in the face of a tragic event, such as what happened last weekend in London. ACT and the Alda Center also share a common goal, and it's to help people communicate topics in clear, in vivid, and engaging ways. We help improve the understanding of difficult subjects by the media, by business, by policymakers, and by the general public. The Alda Center exists for an even greater purpose still: to envision a world that recognizes the wonder and the value of science. We need that wonder more so now than ever before. For over 3 decades, Alan has been an inexhaustible advocate for science. Since the founding of the Alda Center in 2009, they've trained over 8,000 scientists. Another 30,000 people have been introduced to their approach through talks, and many of them have been led by Alan himself. When Alan helped found the Alda Center, he set out to prove that techniques that he had learned as an improv artist could help scientists too. And not all scientists are as clear like Brian Greene about the way they talk about their work. As you might imagine, for public policy, for research funding, for things like the cure to cancer, this is problematic. As Alan studied these communication barriers, he quickly discovered that they extend far beyond science. Companies lose money. People get divorced. Women and minorities are excluded. People will literally kill one another, all because of bad communication, because of an inability to connect, and an inability to relate to one another. Alan is tireless in his efforts to solve this challenge. He seeks to help us to communicate, to relate, and to care more deeply for one another. This is his purpose, this is his mission, and it's why he founded the Alda Center and ACT. Now, there is one thing that I have learned from Alan in the last year of working with him, and it's that you never say what's in the script. You let the moment kind of define it. So this past weekend, I was at the World Science Festival with Alan and everybody at the Alda Center. And the Flame Challenge takes place there every year. And this year, what happens with the Flame Challenge is that scientists are supposed to explain to an 11-year-old a complex scientific topic. So this year's question was, what is energy? And up on the stage, scientist after scientist came up. And the first thing they started off by saying was, all energy comes from the sun. And as I'm sitting in the audience and watching Alan, it suddenly occurred to me what a beautiful metaphor that is. It's a beautiful metaphor for inspiration. And here's this great guy, right here in this audience right now, who imparts inspiration to all of us. He has set all of this into motion, and he's turned basically what is potential energy into kinetic, into active energy. And in so doing, Alan, I think that you have brought a light of knowledge and really a wonder of science back into this world. So on behalf of everyone at the Alda Center, on behalf of everyone at ACT, I want to thank you for being a great entrepreneur, a great mentor, and a dear friend. Thank you.
Should I throw away the script?
It might get mad at me. Alan has always been a great communicator, from the stage, from the screen, and also from the printed page. He's already written 2 New York Times best-selling books, and his new book, If I Understood You, Why Would I Have This Look on My Face? It will be released tomorrow, and each of you will receive a signed copy tonight.
Alan, congratulations on winning this wonderful award from the Westport Library. I'm so happy you're getting this award for this book, because with this wonderful book, you changed my life. I actually thought I was a pretty empathic person and that I related and communicated with people pretty well. And then, as I was editing your book, I began to wonder. And when I was in a meeting, I realized that actually I was doing some of the things you say we shouldn't do. I wasn't really listening. I was thinking about what I was going to say next. And so I changed, and my meetings began to be much more fun and much more productive. Congratulations once again for this wonderful book and for changing my life.
Mr. Alda, you give us so much joy. We are so grateful for you. And we love looking at you.
Looking at you while troubles are fleeing, I'm admiring the view, 'cause it's you I'm seeing, and the sweet honeydew of well-being settles upon me.
What is this light that shines when you enter like a star in the night? What's to prevent him from destroying my sight? You center all of it on me. I wanted to end it till that one full day. You came to mend it, and if you'll only stay, I'll spend it looking at you. Alan, if you will only stay, I'll spend it with you.
Cynthia Gibb, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Cynthia, for making a heartfelt song so beautiful. We greatly appreciate yours and Brian's help and that of the Staple Strings. And a wonderful piano player in making this tribute come alive. It's apparent to all of us, isn't it, what an engaging effect Alan Alda has had on so many people. As a career librarian, it makes perfect sense to me that Westport's tribute to Alan Alda is taking place at a library, particularly the Westport Library, where every day we strive to make this institution a temple to curiosity. It is the perfect environment for a man like Mr. Alda, whose searching mind is not satisfied by easy answers or content with conventional wisdom. We have followed him on his science odysseys, and we have been infected by his unquenchable thirst for more knowledge. We have been moved by the characters that he has played on stage and screen, noble or otherwise, dramatizing all the complications that human beings can create for themselves. We admire Mr. Alda's activism, his persistent efforts to reduce misconceptions, to make our world more comprehensible and worthy of our protective care. This is a talented individual that has garnered the affection of people of all ages and backgrounds because he truly is a good and spirited man. As a case in point, my own teenage son, Grant, who is a massive, and I mean massive fan of MASH reruns, was so taken by the character of Dr. Hawkeye Pierce that this past Christmas, he insisted, or rather he asked for a bathrobe just like Hawkeye's. And of course, we got him that bathrobe. Therefore, it gives me great pleasure tonight to present the Westport Library Award to Alan Alda, a creative individual whose work reflects the heart and purpose of the Westport Library, to nurture the love of learning, to deepen our compassion, and to enhance our understanding of the world. Mr. Alda, would you please join me at the podium?
This is amazing. It's a little unsettling to see your life flash before your eyes. You ever had anybody actually go for it and die here? What a wonderful. Thank you so much for these brilliant young musicians. And the performers who tonight brought my life back to me, that was so kind of you to devote yourself to that. And the person or people who put together this montage, who found pieces of tape, and that's just amazing. And my friends who surprised me, and Sarah Chase, who surprised me, she said, "Can I bum a ride with you up there? I want to see what's happening." Amazing. So let me tell you a little bit about what I did, so that you get the inside story and you see some of the failures I had along the way, because this is very complimentary and flattering. But when I started the science program, I was making all kinds of mistakes because I did the opposite of what I learned about communication later on. I was thinking about what I was thinking about. I went in to interview a scientist the first time about a solar panel he had made to power a car. And I said, "It's so great that you took all these parts off the shelf and made the solar panel." He said, "No, I didn't. I made it myself." I thought, oh my God. So I just wanted to get a little, show a little awe about his thing, and I just leaned on the solar panel. I said, "Please don't do that, you'll destroy it." And I wasn't listening to him when he was telling me things, so my questions didn't come out of what he was saying. I was making all these blunders. I wasn't listening to him. And it was later that I learned to really listen. But I drew on what I knew as an actor, and I hadn't applied it automatically. It's funny, when you get used to this, you start to withdraw from it. You don't apply it where you should always. Because as an actor, when I come on the stage as an actor, I don't say my next line because it's in the script. I say it because the other actor does something or says something to me that makes me say it. And it's that connection between us, that relating, that makes the performance happen. I see my performance in the other actor's eyes. But I didn't know what relating was for the longest time. Directors would say to me, "Relate more." And I knew it had something to do with the other person's face. So they'd say, "Relate," and I'd lean down into the person's face. I'd say, no, relate better. I'd go further over. And then I realized when I got better at it, you could relate to somebody with your back turned to them. If you're noticing what's coming from them, their body language, the look in their face. Turns out to be very important, and that's what happened when we were doing the science show. The connection between me and the scientist was like an improvisation. We were relating to one another, because I didn't go in with a list of questions. I just went in with my natural ignorance and some curiosity. I had a huge fund of ignorance to work from. But it's good to be ignorant, as long as you're curious. Ignorance without curiosity, not so good. But I knew that what I didn't know, after a while, I was willing to admit what I didn't know. And then to want them to tell me, and they wanted to tell me. They're natural teachers. And then something funny happened. That personal connection we had made them show me their vulnerable, true selves. They weren't making a lecture for the camera. They were just talking to me. And if I didn't understand it, I'd grab them by the collar and I'd shake them. I'd say, "I don't get it. What are you talking about?" And sometimes it worked the other way. I was in China with Yuan Wangping, the guy who hybridized rice. And he was talking biology to me. I couldn't understand what he was saying. I kept asking him over and over again. He grabbed me by the shirt. He said, "Alan, pay attention." I was paying attention, but I just didn't understand the lingo. And that's our problem, is that we're talking different languages to each other, and we forget, all of us forget, that when we know something intimately, deeply, in all its complexity, we forget what it's like not to know it that deeply. We assume other people understand it the way we do. So that's what we try to get them out of at the Center for Communicating Science. And the way we do it is to get them to relate to people, to really relate, not the way I used to, but to really relate where you see the other person, read their clues, even if you're writing for them, figure out what they're probably thinking and feeling as you write one sentence, what are they ready to hear for the next sentence, and that kind of thing. And what we do is we actually teach them improvisation. Not to make them comedians, it's not comedy improvisation. It's improvisation that puts you on the other person, makes you connect, makes you relate. And then stuff comes out of you that you didn't know was there. For instance, the passion comes out of you, stories come out of you. So often people think they don't have a story, but they do have stories. All the mistakes we make are our greatest stories. That's what humanizes us. and we connect to one another. So we teach improvisation, which you've heard, we taught 8,000 scientists, but what made the transition for me, and made it interesting for me and possible for me to write this book, that I hear now that each of you has this book. This is so wonderful. Like this, I'm thrilled to know that this many books in people's hands right here. It's just great. Crack it open, take a look, you'll see. So what made the transition for me was scientists who we had trained in communication were saying these interesting things to us. We began to realize it applied to other people as well. One scientist said, you've got to talk to everybody about this. You've got to teach them better communication. He said, my wife is an art historian and I can't understand a word she says. And this other guy, a scientist, said, this training has saved my marriage. And I began to realize it is for husbands and wives, it's for parents and children, it's for bosses and employees, for salespeople, for everybody who has a connection with another person. I was just reading, just the other day, I was reading two different pieces by two people who were expert in diplomacy. And they said, both of them said, you can't do diplomacy without taking into account the other person's perspective. And that's what we're teaching. That's empathy. Seeing things from the other person's point of view. Knowing what they're feeling. Theory of mind is the term for knowing what they're thinking. If you can get a good estimate of that in the other person's head, you open yourself up to them, and they open themselves up to you. And wonderful things happen. And that empathy can be a tool to do the good things you want to do. I mean, I think of this like with a married couple, for instance. So let's say the husband is up late, past midnight, and his wife is already in bed, and he passes by the kitchen sink, and he sees this huge pile of dishes in the kitchen sink, and he thinks, I ought to do something about that. What are the odds that he does something? But if he has this little flash of empathy, if he imagines what his wife will feel like in the morning when she sees the pile of dishes, he's liable to actually do something about it and clean the dishes. And all of a sudden, he's liable to realize washing the dishes is foreplay. So you know what, let me show you what we do. You want to be a volunteer for a minute? Yeah, you look relatively courageous. Come over here. Oh, you're even athletic. That's good. There are stairs. Hi, I'm Alan. Paula, hi. Okay, so here's one of the things that brings about this empathic connection, this relating to another person. It's one of the earliest, simplest exercises in improvisation. And you'll see, it's not a jokey comedy kind of thing. It's just connecting. Let's say that you're my mirror. And when I look at you, I'm looking into the mirror, and everything I do, you do as if you were my mirror, instantaneously, with no lag time. So let's say, okay, ready? See, like, what now if I do this? It's not a mirror anymore, right? Because it's too fast. I'm not taking care of it. This is symbolic of communication. It's up to me if I'm communicating that she follow me. It's not up to her, it's up to me. See, and once we get good at this, you can lead me now. Now you lead me. Keep me with you. Don't go too fast. Yeah. No, you got to take care of me. Now let's nobody lead. Let's see if we can keep going and we're both leading and both follow. Whoa. Good. We had a good hand. Okay, good. I got a ball here. Stand back. I'm going to throw you the ball. Can you see the ball? See how heavy it is? Says I'm bad at catching. It's only made out of space, but you gotta catch it like it's real. You're gonna know how heavy it is and how long it takes to get to you by the way I throw it to you. There, caught it with your whole body. That's good. Toss it back. Good, 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 good. Watch where it goes. Oh, it was bouncing, sort of hit you in the nose. No, wait. I got over here a beach ball. Nice and light. Catch it. Send it back. Send it back, send it back. Send it over there. Send it forward. Watch, where's it? Got it. So while I was writing the book, I thought, it's interesting. Not everybody can go to an improv class and get this connection that's, I think, essential to communicating. So I was looking for things that people could do that I could do to practice when I'm not myself in an improv class. And I thought, I'll find out what everybody else is saying. There's some very interesting ideas about how to build up your empathy. Some people say read novels. And that's really a good idea for people who are supporting this great library. I love libraries. Don't you love libraries? Have to change with the times and include computing and all. And I know this library is changing with the times. But I love reading a book, holding it in my hand. I hope that never goes away. But sometimes I think I sound like somebody 1,000 years ago who said, boy, don't you hope they never stop writing on scrolls? You were deaf, I guess. So, what was I saying before that? Books and life, connecting. Oh, so one person says, some people say read novels and you'll get more empathic because you get involved in the lives and the emotions of the characters, which I have to tell you, I'm so embroiled in reading science. I don't read much fiction at all. I'm impatient with fiction. I mostly read nonfiction. No, this is a horrible thing to say in a library because there are a lot of books back there. Even the nonfiction ones are fiction. But mostly the autobiographies. But I joined a book club that only reads novels, so I'd be forced to read novels because I think it is probably a good thing to do. But every once in a while, the people in the book club are very smart and very sweet. We'd be eating dinner, and they'd say, well, I don't get it. Why don't you like novels? And I say, because you can just tell they're making it up. Every once in a while, I come across one like The Handmaid's Tale. Boy, that's so exquisite. I love that. I love that book. I can understand why I think it's #1 this week. So, other things people say, these are interesting ideas. One I think a psychologist suggested that to build up your empathy, you watch a dramatic television show with the sound turned off and try to figure out the emotions they're going through. It's an interesting idea. So I do that in a way in real life. I love to experiment on myself. So I try, as I walk through the street or went into a delicatessen and talked to the cashier or talked with my friends, I would look at them carefully and try to figure out what emotion they were having, what emotion they were going through. And I would try to name it. And I was talking about this to a psychologist, and he said, I'd like to study that. So he got a cohort of people, and he did a standardized empathy test on them before he sent them out into the world to have encounters with people where they figure out what the other people were feeling. And he also had them just notice the people, different things about the people. And when they came back, he gave them the standardized test again, and the people who had done it the most had actually increased the most in their empathy on the standardized test. So it seems to have something to to do with this connection, this stuff that we're teaching in the lab about connecting through improvisation. Based on that study and based on a number of other studies that I talk about in the book, there are things that we found by trial and error that actually have some basis in research. I want to try, do you mind if I try an experiment on you? I never did this before. If you don't mind, go along. Who wants to try it? It involves you. Yeah? Okay. Here it is. The person on your far left. Everybody turn, starting with that person, everybody turn to the person on your right. And over here, everybody turn to the person on your right. If you're left over, you're an odd person out, don't worry about it. So now you're going to improvise the scene for like 20 or 30 seconds. The person who's on your extreme left, turns to the person on the right. You're a teenager, say you're about 15 years old, and you're talking to your parent, either your father or your mother, and you have to convince your father or your mother that you deserve 3 times the allowance that you now get. Get ready. Just think of some good way to do it. Okay, get ready, get set, go. Among the people who were the parents, raise your hand if you were convinced by the teenager. 1, 2, 3. Anybody over here? 4 out of 550. Okay, now the person who was the teenager, close your eyes. Don't look at the other person. Tick these off in your head. Just answer these questions silently and keep track of the answers. Number 1, what color was your parents' eyes? Number 2, what color was that person's hair? Number 3, what color was the clothes? What was the jacket or sweater they were wearing? Number 4, can you picture the shape of his or her nose? Okay, you got that? Okay, how many people got 4 of those right? All 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it looks like at most, maybe 9 or 10 people out of 500. You were pleading for 3 times your allowance. You didn't notice the person you were talking to. How many people got 3 of those right? Fewer. 2 or 3 people. How many people got 2 of them right? This is funny. 1 or 2 people. Anybody just get 1? So most of you got none of them right. You didn't notice the other person. And only, now let's see. I'm going to give you, try it again. Plead for 3 times your allowance again of your parent. Get ready, get set, go. Okay, thank you. Good. Okay, thank you. That's good. Now, how many people were convinced to give the allowance? Oh, wait, let me count. Keep your hand up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. How many was it the first time? You remember? Four people, so 500% improvement. All right. Now, I don't know, but there are many variables here we don't know about. Maybe you just had more experience after the first time, and trying harder the second time. But you were also noticing the first time. We've seen this happen in workshops, where when you're finally taking the other person in, something opens up, and the other person is listening a little better, and you're listening to them as you speak. It's really an amazing thing. But one of the things I always try to emphasize is that this is not a system, it's not mechanical, it's not a bunch of tips. You know, tips don't really work, experiences work. You went through an experience just now. I didn't just say, pay attention to the person you're talking to. That would go in one ear and out the other. But you might look more carefully at the people you talk to from now on because you had this experience. It's actually fun to do. What is this face I'm looking at? But it's not a system it's not mechanical. And I'll give you an example. I'll tell you one story before I stop. I was on vacation with my family. We were in the Virgin Islands, and it was gorgeous. It's a paradise down there. The sea breeze, the humidity, the sun. We saw plants and trees that we had never seen before. And I was walking with my grandson, Mateo. He was about 6 years old. And we were walking down a path where we were seeing things we had never seen before. And suddenly we saw this tree that was really amazing. It had a long, skinny trunk with spiky things coming out of the trunk, like a dragon's back, all the way up and down the trunk. And he said, Grandpa, look at that tree. How did it get like that? And I thought, oh, this is so great. He's asking me an evolution question. So I could teach him about evolution, because he asked me, he wants to know. So we sat on the ground, and we talked about evolution for 45 minutes. It was wonderful, about, natural selection, adaptation, the whole thing. It was just glorious. And the next day, he was swimming with his cousin, and he asked her a question. And she said, that sounds like a science question. Why don't you ask Grandpa? He said, I'm not making that mistake.
Thank you, Alan Alda. You're all inspired by your passionate curiosity for life. What a wonderful event we've had. Thank you to our MC, to our performers, to the Staple Strings, to our incredible planning committee for making this event happen, and to all of you for purchasing a ticket and coming out and supporting us this evening. Now, dinner or dessert is still ready to be served, so please, let's continue to have fun and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much.